All right, we've all been there, right? That sudden, almost overwhelming urge for something specific. Maybe it's chips, maybe it's chocolate. It feels like your body is sending you a crystal clear message. But what is it really trying to say? For the longest time, the story we've all heard is actually pretty simple. But what if I told you there's something much, much deeper going on? A really fascinating story that involves your ancient ancestors, believe it or not, your gut bacteria, and the crazy world we live in today. So let's start with the classic explanation. You've probably heard this one a million times, right? It's this idea that a craving is just your body's clever little way of sending up a flare, telling you it's running low on some specific vitamin or mineral. And this idea, it just feels so right, doesn't it? Super intuitive. The theory goes that if you're desperately craving chocolate, your body's screaming for magnesium. Or that overwhelming need for salty chips, well, that's just a sign you're low on sodium. It's a really neat, tidy explanation that seems to make perfect sense, at least on the surface. But is it the whole story? While this idea is super popular, the science, it suggests it's just one tiny piece of a way bigger puzzle. And actually, when you start to really look at this theory, some pretty big holes start to show up. Yeah, that whole nutrient deficiency theory, it doesn't always hold up. For instance, did you know women are twice as likely to crave sweet stuff, while guys tend to go for savory things? And think about pregnancy cravings. They're usually for high-calorie, high-fat comfort foods, not exactly spinach and kale. And here's a good one. If you really needed calcium, why would you crave cheese when something like tofu has way more? It just doesn't add up. Clearly, there have got to be other, more powerful forces at work here. So what are these other forces? Well, our first big clue is buried deep, deep in our evolutionary past. I want you to think of your brain like a brand new smartphone, but it's running on super old, outdated software. Software that was perfectly designed for a world that frankly just doesn't exist anymore. And this really gets to the heart of it. See, for almost all of human history, calories were hard to come by. Our ancestors lived in a world of feast or total famine, so their brains evolved to basically throw a party anytime they found energy-dense foods, because those foods were rare and absolutely crucial for, not dying. This whole survival strategy actually has a name. It's called optimal foraging theory, and it's a simple but totally brilliant idea. It means our brains got hardwired to find the most energy for the least amount of work. I mean, think about it. Why waste time digging up low-energy roots when a fatty animal could fuel you for days? This whole thing led to a really powerful, almost non-negotiable preference for 3 specific tastes. Okay, first up, sweetness. For our ancestors, a sweet taste was like a fantastic evolutionary cheat code. It was a super reliable signal that a food, like a ripe piece of fruit, was not only safe to eat, but also packed with quick energy. It helped them avoid bitter plants, which could often be poisonous. Next on the list, fat. Gram for gram, fat packs more than double the punch of protein or carbs. It's the ultimate fuel. So in a world where you never knew where your next meal was coming from, a preference for fatty foods was basically like taking out an insurance policy. Storing body fat was the absolute best way to make it through a long, hard winter. And last but not least, salt. Your body absolutely needs sodium for things like nerve function and keeping your fluids balanced. But for most of our ancestors, it was super hard to find unless you lived near the coast. So our brains evolved to make us love the taste of salt to make sure we'd seek it out and get enough of this critical mineral whenever we had the chance. And get this ancient wiring is backed up by our genetics. It's estimated that a whopping 85% of us carry what scientists call thrifty genes. Now, for our ancestors, these genes were a huge advantage. They basically told the body, hey, store every single spare calorie as fat, just in case. But today, in our world of abundance, this brilliant survival trait has kind of backfired, big time. Okay, but it's not just about our ancient wiring. There's another major player here, a much, much smaller one, but just as powerful. It turns out your cravings might not even be, well, yours. We need to dive into the absolutely fascinating world of your gut microbiome. Now, this might sound like something out of a sci-fi movie, but the trillions of tiny microbes living in your gut have a surprisingly loud voice. See, different types of bacteria like to eat different types of food, and they can actually send chemical signals all the way up to your brain to influence what you want to eat. A really groundbreaking study in the journal PNS decided to put this whole idea to the test. So here's what the researchers did.
They took these special mice that had zero gut bacteria to start with. Then they introduced microbes from wild rodents that all had very different diets. After that, they gave all the mice a choice, a high-protein food or a high-carb food. Simple as that.
And the results were honestly just stunning. The mice started choosing different foods based only on the type of bacteria they had in their gut. For example, the mice who got bacteria from herbivores, they suddenly started eating way fewer carbs, completely flipping their natural preferences on their head. So the big question is, how did they pull this off? Well, the gut bacteria were actually messing with how the mice processed an amino acid called tryptophan. Now, you need tryptophan to make serotonin, which is a super important chemical in your brain for regulating appetite. So by controlling how much tryptophan was available, these little microbes were basically hijacking the mouse's brain to get the exact food they wanted to eat. Wild, right? And this brings us right to the heart of the problem. You've got a Stone Age brain, you've got gut microbes with their own little agendas, and they're all trying to navigate a 21st century world overflowing with food. It's a total mismatch, a fundamental clash between our ancient biology and our modern world. And you can see this mismatch so clearly here. The very things that were our greatest survival strengths are now our biggest challenges. Those thrifty genes that saved our ancestors from starvation, now they can lead to rapid weight gain. The powerful cravings that drove us to find rare, high-energy foods, now they pull us toward an endless supply of processed foods. And that instinct to save energy, well, today that just contributes to a more sedentary lifestyle. So what are we supposed to do about all this? Well, the secret isn't to declare war on your own biology. Trust me, that's just a recipe for failure and frustration. The real trick is to learn how to work with your ancient programming, using a few smart strategies. Okay, strategy number 1, let's remodel your food landscape. Remember that optimal foraging theory? Your brain wants the biggest reward for the least effort. So use that to your advantage. Make healthy eating the path of least resistance. Put a big bowl of fruit right on the counter. Have healthy snacks ready to grab. And do the opposite for the junk food. Add some friction. Put the cookies on a high shelf in the back of the pantry. That little bit of extra effort is often all it takes to make your brain say, never mind. Strategy 2 is all about making smart swaps, not sacrifices. Your brain is screaming for something salty and crunchy. Fine, give it salty and crunchy, just in a healthier package. Instead of chips, try some air-popped popcorn or roasted chickpeas. You need that sweet fix? A piece of dark chocolate or some Greek yogurt with berries can totally hit the spot. The key is you're satisfying the texture and the taste your brain is asking for, just with way better ingredients. And finally, strategy number 3, practice mindful eating. So often, our cravings are just running on autopilot. They're triggered by boredom or stress, not actual hunger. So before you eat, just pause. Take one deep breath and ask yourself, am I actually physically hungry, or am I feeling something else right now? That tiny little gap you create is everything. It's the space between an automatic reaction and a conscious choice, and that's where you take your power back. So here's the bottom line. The next time you feel that powerful craving, instead of asking what your body lacks, maybe ask what your biology remembers. Realizing that a craving isn't some kind of personal failure, but just a biological echo from a different time, that's a total game changer. It shifts you away from guilt and toward curiosity. So ask yourself, is this a message from my ancient past, a little whisper from my gut, or just a modern-day habit? The answer just might surprise you.